Everyone, this is your host Saeed with Messy Growth. So most product managers come from engineering or design. Today's guest, though, came from customer success. Weronika Siatkowska spent 6 years at GetResponse on the front lines, customer success specialist, team coach, quality lead, and a PM. She trained 210 employees precisely. She handled product issues daily. She knew what customers actually needed, wanted, because she talked to them pretty much every single day. Then in 2017, she made the jump customer success to product manager. 3 years at GetResponse as PM, 3 years as Unity Technologies, building internal tools for engineers, and now, here's the fun one, 3 years at Lego Group, building data platforms for model engineers and designers who create those iconic sets. She spent her entire career building tools that nobody sees, internal platforms, data systems, engineering services, not consumer products, not flashy apps, the infrastructure that actually makes everything else work. Veronica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So when I first reached out to you, our colleague, mutual colleague, she made an intro. I saw your work at Lego, told my kids, and they went nuts about it. So I'm really excited for this one. I mean, this is something I want to have on my YouTube show. I think my kids are gonna really enjoy it.
You're gonna get some extra points, for being cool
Yeah,
dad. Yeah.
absolutely. There you go. There you go. I always start off with guests. I'm trying to do research in terms of what is it that interests them, their career, their experience, so to speak. And your LinkedIn says something pretty interesting, always curious, always optimizing. Where does that come from? Is that something you learned, or is that just who you are?
Yeah, so I think curiosity has always been, a trait that I exercise, but I do it especially at work. So, for example, when you're onboarding to a new team or a new company, the onboarding will be impossible if you didn't exercise at least a tiny bit of proactive curiosity. But it doesn't mean that you can stop practicing once you feel, onboarded well enough. Because for me, that well enough doesn't exist. And so there will be always something you need to understand better to then continue delivering value, right? So it could be a new dependency on the horizon. It could be a new user group flagging a use case that they need to be supported. Company comes up with a new strategic direction, which will, in some shape or form, indirectly impact the reality of your team and your product, right? So, in the context of product management, you have to cater to the changing landscape of business requirements, user requirements, but also technological advancements. So, you will fail if you're not curious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of folks are not curious for the most part. They just want to go ahead and do their job, and they're like, yeah, leave that extra part out of there. So the fact
Yeah.
that you're saying always optimizing, always curious, and I'm not a firm believer in that 1% a day. It's not about that. It can be 1% a week,
Yeah.
provided that you're always optimizing something and improving. I think that's the key to success. But for that, you have to be curious, like you said, for the most
100%.
part.
I do understand that you need to manage your energy when you approach a work task. So sometimes it's totally okay if you don't have that energy to give. But still, if you have that energy, then choose what you want to do with it. You either dedicate it to mundane, day-to-day, maybe more operational tasks, but as a PM, you have to think more strategically, and that's where curiosity plays a big part in your success.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit and talk about your career. You started your career translating coal mining articles. That was a very fun one for me to pull out. That's very specific. How did
Yep.
you end up there, and what did translating teach you that's useful now as a PM, or is there a correlation there?
Okay. I'm gonna take you on a story train with me. So I actually moved to Gdańsk in 2012, and I moved to complete a 2-year, master's studies in translations at University of Gdańsk. And actually, one of the requirements of that program was that you have to have a translation internship at a company of your choice. So what I did is I just went to through Miasto.pl and I looked for companies who were looking for interns. So that's how I landed a position at Paul Coldex. It was not intentional. I just needed a company that takes me in. But actually, prior to that internship, I was already doing some translations. Um, I had several translations under my belt, which I done not as a part of a company, but on as a contractor. And I did that when I was still completing my bachelor's in applied linguistics in my hometown. So I wanted to build my translation portfolio as early as possible to then prepare for a career as a translator. But funnily enough, like that's not the path I'm actively pursuing. Um, but even though I do like to describe myself as a product manager who translates, right? Like I translate business goals into technical deliverables.
That's
I
neat.
translate technical constraints and risks, and I do that. I translate them into decision records, and of course, those decision records have to be approved by stakeholders. So that ability to communicate with in between different types of audiences, respecting their terminology preferences and levels of
Mm,
technical literacy, is a skill that can make or break you as a PM.
I think that the underlining goal here and what you're saying is that just because you started as a translator, you study translation, that does not mean that you have to literally do translation of documents. It can
Or
that skill set can be applied in various different forms. You just have to look at it again. That points of you have to stay curious. You have to optimize, and you can find different paths, right? So that's a
for
really
sure.
interesting way to look at it. Is that if it's same skill set, where else can I go ahead and apply that?
Yeah. And not gonna lie, I wanted to be a translator so bad. And I wanted to do that, for years. Like that was a very specific career path that I chose. There's the studies I applied to were specifically for that. But somehow along the line, life happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Do you think that AI has killed that job for a lot of folks now, considering that it has gotten extremely sophisticated with the way, for instance, translations, even in real-time translations?
That's a good question. I haven't been dabbling in translations for a while now, right? So I'm not sure what
Mm,
is the level of turmoil that's happening in
mm, yeah,
that professional group. I will say it's probably way harder because previously every smaller job, like even website translation, was contracted to a translator. And now
yeah,
those smaller, even entry-level tasks are disappearing from the
right.
market. And so for that, I would say it's definitely changing the landscape in which translators are coming to the market. There is, of course, still a need or a demand for translators who are very specialized background for medical or legal purposes. And AI will help, but will never do the job that a translator needs. And I can give you a simple example,
Sure.
um, which is from personal life. My dad wrote a book a couple of years back, and then he was like, maybe I'll just use AI to put it into English and just kind of, put that ebook out there. He sent me that file and I cried. It was so bad. And he used, I think, three different tools, also kind of recommended us the translation tools, but it had it had the backbone, but
Yeah,
it had lack of
just the
consistency when it comes to
polish.
character names. It hallucinated and added chapters that didn't exist, and you can't really notice that if you don't go through the translation or the output file with a lot of care
Mm,
and detail orientation. And so I still believe there is a need for translators. It just
yeah,
changed where you apply your talents.
yeah, 100%. I was watching this TV show the other day. They called The Pit on HBO, and it's about doctors and ERs, emergency rooms, and they're trying to use AI in order to be able to fasten the time or speed up the process in which doctors are writing information about the patients, and the AI is hallucinating, like they're writing different medicines. If it's like Reprisol, it's writing Reprisol, which is a
Yeah.
completely different medicine, and dosage are different. You cannot afford it to hallucinate. I don't know, the example is a little bit extreme, but the premise is the same, is that it hallucinates, but it can hallucinate to a point where it can start to become, it can have a lot of grave consequences. And of course, in this
Oh
particular
yeah.
case, like you said, destroying a skill, so to speak, a profession that people take a lot of pride in, for the most
100%.
part. So a long way to go with AI. Um, I don't want to talk about, again, your career, not about AI. So in 2013, you joined GetResponse as a customer success specialist. That is a huge pivot from translation. Why customer success? What were you looking for? Was it one of those opportunities? Hey, I got it. Let's just try it. Or was it more specific and deliberate?
Right. So honestly, I was just looking for a summer job. And I needed something between my first and second year of the master studies to earn extra money. Like that was really it.
Sure.
So what I did is I went to a career fair at my university. I collected leaflets, from different companies looking for young talent. And And then afterwards, I just did a little bit of a triage, looking for companies that would appreciate my linguistic abilities, but they didn't require any subject matter expertise. And that was it. And that's how I landed at GetResponse in their customer success department. And what ended up happening is that it wasn't just a summer job for me. It turned out that I was really good at what I was doing. So I decided to stay and managed to get my master's degree while still working part-time in customer success.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I like the fact that companies give you that opportunity, right? I know a lot
100%.
of folks are like, hey, you got to work full time. Yeah, sure. But like if there's talented person at the door and, they're good at your job, like you said, exceptions should be made and give that flexibility. So that's amazing. So talking about GetResponse, you spent 6-ish years there, climbing from customer success specialist to a team coach, quality lead, product manager. That's really rare, the kind of progression. Most people either stayed customer success or jump to, let's say, a different company or switch to a PM entirely.
Yeah.
Why did GetResponse let you make that transition internally? Was it your decision? Was it a collective one? Curious to hear that.
Yeah, I would love to hear what GetResponse has to say about it. But
I'm gonna reach out to the manager after this.
okay, I'll give you names. Wait. So actually, because throughout my career, like I did encounter wonderful people leaders who saw my potential and encouraged the curiosity and led me to new opportunities, even when I couldn't necessarily spell out what is the role or next position or next career step I was interested in, right? And that was the case of GetResponse. So in my customer success career, there were two people, Kasia Milejczyk and Ola Grabowska. They were the ones who kind of steered me into different growth opportunities. They gave me extra tasks when I showed interest in doing something extra. Um, and they really did create a fantastic, tight-knit customer success team who really felt like family. Um, because for me, it's always or often the people, the team atmosphere, which keeps you in one place. And that was certainly the case for me there. But at one point, I knew that customer success wasn't something I wanted to do forever. And there was a
Why not?
period of, well, I just get stressed out a lot when people shout at me.
A lot of people shout at you.
I
Welcome to
mean,
the club.
right? I just knew my energy cannot be used there.
Tough, right? It is a tough role giving all the time,
It
isn't it?
is. I will say I GetResponse. The reality was, in my opinion, nicer than in some of the other companies that have customer success
Really?
because the primary method of contact was chats, right? It was
Ah.
the phones that really drove me insane.
Oh, wow.
It was the phone calls. So at one point I was like, yeah, I probably gave what I could give, but I still care about, the company, the people, and I want to do something. So there was a period when I was still in customer success, but I got to work a little bit closer with IT because we had a ticket system for,
Hmm.
emailing customers and responding to their support that was built in house. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I acted as a stakeholder to that team. So I was participating in um, requesting new feature improvements or participating in the requirements refinement session. So that was my really like the first encounter with agile ways of software development. And so after that, I took an active interest in agile adjacent roles, so to say, and,
Hmm.
and was eventually, after some conversations, offered to join the product team within the company as a junior PM. And that's where another inspirational leader, Marta Steiner, was instrumental to my growth as a PM. Um, there wasn't a lot of females in that team. I mean, literally, Marta was the only one at that point. So I kind of joined.
Wow.
And it was her who helped me really navigate also the different dynamics of being a young female professional in a male dominated spaces. So
Yeah.
some people may see my kind of career path as a coincidence that, that I landed in product, but for me, it's more a result of multiple atomic level attempts of putting myself out there
Hmm.
for like I work really hard to become great at what I do. I was curious about other departments and their work and the product, and I was also brave to ask for more, and people listened.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think the importance of having people in your corner that help you grow and shape you cannot be understated.
Yes.
It's extremely important to have those folks at companies that you work at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recommend anybody take a pay cut, but make sure that you have a strong support structure because that opens up, opportunities down the road for you.
Yeah.
For the most part, sticking to GetResponse, you trained 210 people in customer success. You've trained more people than I have, by the way. So like that's kudos, and I've been doing this for 13 years. What did that teach you anything about product? Does training hundreds of people make you a better PM, or it's just one of those things is that, hey, I got to train and that was it. There's nothing more to it than that.
Yeah, I actually, it was 210 employees, but it wasn't only in customer success. It was every employee who joined the company, no matter their role, they had product training in their curriculum, right? And so before moving to product, while still being in customer success, I had the role of being a coach. And so this experience really allowed me to practice my translation skills. So I needed to translate what we sell, our product, what we support to everybody. New journey is not only in customer success and IT, but also like finance, legal, HR. And the biggest perk I got out of that is, first of all, relationships. I was able to establish connections um, that, like in the future. So when I moved to product, these were the people that maybe I had to do a project with or make some decisions. So they would be somehow involved in my life, and it was so much easier once I had that more personal rapport. And making connection is just incredibly important if you want to succeed as PM, right? It helps create a work environment that you helps you assume best intentions from the start instead of malicious intent. And that is
Hmm,
especially
damn.
helpful in
Yeah.
situations when you need to make difficult decisions without losing the allies, right? Because that's not always a given. And so I would say relationships. What else it taught me about being a PM, I didn't even think of being a PM at that point. But what it also helped me polish in my skill set is being able to speak about a complicated matter in a language that everybody can understand. So still that sort of translation, adjusting my message to the audience that I'm currently interacting with. Because every month we would have a different distribution overall. So you could have more people in customer success joining. So maybe I would turn up a little bit,
Yeah.
talking about corner cases that we support and things to know about product. Um, but when we had sales, maybe about the, hero features of the product that we really believe in and are at the core of the identity of the company. Um, so that ability to be flexible and to adjust to your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're describing a little bit of a house of cards scenario here, but yes, the relationships is critical when it
True.
comes to being a PM. I think also because you're a gap stop, right? You're liaising between engineering and sales and marketing and customers.
Yeah.
And a lot of things come to you, and it just oftentimes feels like how do I prioritize what? So having relationships work in your favor, for lack of a better way to put it, makes things slightly easier, because this is a stressful job
Yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination. I want to talk about engineering, and I want to talk about PMs for a little bit longer. A lot of folks, excuse me, let's correct that. A lot of PMs that I speak to, they come from engineering, design. I actually spoke to one last week. That person also came from engineering and happened to be a PM. You came from customer success. What do you see that those folks miss? What is your unfair advantage?
I wouldn't say they miss anything, but I think we can offer different expertise as PMs
Mm,
because when you talk to PMs, you realize even in the same company, even in the same kind of product team, HR structure, there's no PM profile that's the same. And for me, how I like to kind of speak about PMs, but also to categorize myself as a PM, I like to use the buckets of a subject matter expertise PM and a generalist PM because let's say you are looking for a PM for a Danish company such as Maersk that requires really a deep knowledge of supply chain
mm,
management. I am not your candidate. Do not contact me for that job. Um, but so similarly, there can be product positions that really make engineering or design background a hard requirement. So that was somewhere where I necessarily wouldn't go. But I do consider myself a generalist. I can come to whatever industry or product type you you sell, and I probably will excel because I will be absorbing the knowledge about the company and the product context, but I will also be making use of the product skills I worked on over the years. So if the subject matter expertise isn't your like top one, hiring quality, I can probably, come in and be a good PM. So being able to come with a customer success background, what I have enhanced in my skill set is using empathy as a superpower. Being able to change your perspective and experience the product from a point of view of a sometimes very frustrated user gives you an ability to spot product flaws and understand the gravity of them. It really gives you fuel to be an honest advocate for the users, therefore having a much larger opportunity space for new improvements, right? So, and I'm not saying that PMs coming from engineering and design don't have those skills. Of course they do. What I'm saying is, if you hire somebody that comes with a customer success background, it is guaranteed that they are experts in user centricity.
Yeah, I think like the other advantage is that they also have the ability to talk to folks and extract information, which I generally feel like folks coming from engineer at times struggle,
Yeah,
because speaking to people and extracting information to get to the precise issue is also a skill in and of
yeah,
itself,
yeah, true.
right? Which is communication.
True. I mean, if you do come from a design background, you probably have that too, right? But you're right
Sure,
about the
for sure.
engineering. It's a different world, also depending on what kind of company background you come from.
Of
Um,
course.
when I joined Unity, it is and still is a very engineering-led company. So in there, you would have also PMs that kind of gradually came from engineering into product roles. But that mindset of being engineering first, solution first, rather than customer centric is still a muscle that they would have to practice a bit more. Okay.
So 2020, you joined Unity as a senior technical PM for engineering services. That's internal tools, right? Stuff engineers use to build Unity. Why internal tools? Why not consumer facing product?
Yeah, so this brings me to another story then. So back in 2019, I had already started considering looking for another job, preferably abroad, right? So I talked with my wife, fiance at the time about the idea of moving away, and especially away from Poland to a place where the quality of our family life would be better. And so I wasn't in any rush. My career at GetResponse was going great. Um, it was a thought. It was an idea. And so at that point, I opened my LinkedIn profile just to recruiters, not publicly, but I wasn't actively looking for specific jobs and or companies that could apply to. And you know how sometimes people have a very clear idea of where they want to be, which role they want to reach or get, whatever they are willing to step into a leadership role, what companies are their dream workplaces. I don't have that. I was okay with following at that point like a more reactive approach to my career just to see what's out there, but I wasn't pursuing specific opportunities. And so that's when Unity Technologies headhunted me. That it's as simple as that. They reached out, they asked if I would be interested in a product position that they had open, and I decided to give it a try, right? Because we never considered Denmark as the next country to move to. Like we were thinking, oh, from Poland we need to move to something warmer. Not us, not to Scandinavia. But after some research, we were happy to entertain this idea. So in the end, it wasn't the product type, it wasn't the company type that decided over if I am interested or not. It was the potential improvement of the quality of life that we could reach. So Unity was kind enough to offer me a relocation package. We packed up our entire life and moved to Copenhagen a month before the pandemic in 2020. Um, and that was great. And in 2023, I came back to a more career approach that is the proactive one. So that's where I secured a product job at the Lego Group. And I also continued building internal tools there.
That is awesome. A month before pandemic. Like, what
Yeah.
are the odds, huh? Awesome. I want to talk about that really quickly about internal tools. I know internal tools are notoriously hard to build. They just are. There's so many different things that go about doing it. Your users are actually other engineers and builders, which makes it worse. They're opinionated. They have workarounds. What's different about PMing for internal tools versus external products?
A lot. Uh, so I was talking with my PM colleague the other day, and we collectively agreed that building internal tools is both a blessing and a curse. Um, because when you build customer-facing products, your focus is on really solving a very particular problem in a way that puts your product or your company at the forefront of the competition. And your market research will dictate the gaps that you could bridge with innovation. But the rules for internal tools are different. Like this is not the same. So
Yeah,
often, at least in my experience, what I have seen in the companies I've been to is internal tools are built to satisfy a compliancy or security requirement of running the business. Or, as it is in my current team, there's a very specific business process that needs a digital solution, like simple as that, to remove the manual workload,
sure.
to automate things. However, it all boils down to potentially accepting the fact that you work in an environment where instead of a problem to solve, you are given a feature to build. And that's very
Interesting.
demotivating from a point of view of your product team and yourself as a PM. So the challenge here is to find a way to collaborate with your stakeholders in a way where they don't treat you as subcontractors. It's a really tough path to walk and negotiate.
Yeah,
You need to choose your battles because in a way you have to satisfy both, the users, the stakeholders, but also you have that product intuition, you know how something should be done, you know all the processes with the product discovery and delivery and all of that.
yeah,
But the battles you need to choose in a way that lets you gradually negotiate more space for proper product discovery so that you can still solve some actual at hand user problems right now and at the same time,
yeah,
deliver value that just ensures business continuity. So you balance constantly what's right to do from the business point of view and what's the right thing to do from a product led practices point of view. So
yeah.
that's the curse. The blessing lies in access to users. With internal products, it's so much easier to do things like assessing the size of the user segment, or establishing consistent feedback intake, or organize discoveries with the user engagement that is just way easier to schedule. Um, and you need to remember that in the cases where the tool, the users have to adopt the tool because it's mandated by the leadership, the users will not be enthusiastic about it. And that's your reality. So your mission is not to make their lives even more miserable with your product, but rather
Yeah.
offer a digital product that allows them seamless, user-friendly, truly helpful experience in accomplishing their tasks that they have to do, like they have no choice. So something you can offer is just like more delightfulness, more automation, more um, kind of things in the black box that happen, but users don't know about it. So that's the mindset that I come with when I entered a new internal product team.
Yeah, absolutely. Your LinkedIn emphasizes process optimization, backlog management, agile ceremonies. You talked about agile a minute ago, a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Um, some people see that as a bureaucracy. You see it as a craft. Why?
Okay. Maybe not necessarily a crowd, but I do see it as an important enabler. So think about it this way. You're a PM of a team, and if you were to leave the company, which is a very common scenario that happens,
Of course.
what legacy you would like to leave behind for the new PM that's going to take over? So my personal mission is to
Yeah, but
organize a
that's
team.
deep.
I got you. It's Monday morning, but we're getting into it. So again, the mission that I come with is I like organizing chaos that's around me so that me and my team can make space for better conversations. And what I mean by that is like when I join a new team, I observe our environment, how leadership communicates direction, how decisions are documented, what is the flow of knowledge within the team or, between our team and maybe the dependency teams. And also, what is the level of kind of product and dependency awareness in general, right? Like that's where I start my work, and I often see little to no transparency. There's a lot of silo work. It's a pattern, but it also is a pattern in the bigger companies. And
Sure.
Unity was big, but Lego Group is even bigger. So at that point, you need to find tools and processes that help your team move forward. You document and communicate progress and critical decisions. Basically, you need to do what you can to have that solid foundation for gaining trust and solidifying who you are as a team. And I get that it may mean more meetings at the beginning, a little more processes, so that bureaucracy aspect that you mentioned. But the ultimate purpose for the PM is to deliver desired business value. In order to do that, you have to have all the building blocks for a high performing team and well functioning stakeholder relationships. I just don't know how you can reach that without those basic building blocks.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Fair enough. Um, on that topic of collaboration and teams, and you said that you want to be able to build some level of sophistication for the next person that comes in. You've led multi-team projects, GDPR compliance at GetResponse, documentation consolidation at Unity. What's the secret to coordinating multiple different teams without everyone actually hating you?
I think you just need to rally people around a shared goal. Um, because if I just come in and drop requirements on you and deadlines and just expect people to comply, that will not happen. No matter if you're a PM or a project program manager, whatever your role is, that will not happen. So what you really need to cultivate is that in it together mindset. Sounds a bit kumbaya, but really that's all you need. Um, and if it's done successfully, it will result in more of a shared accountability across the teams. Where everybody will want to pull in their weight. And so your role as a PM at the beginning is communicate the goal of the specific delivery project, whatever you call it, especially also the business reasoning behind it and expectations towards each team. But you need to then pause and give people a chance, enough opportunity to ask you questions and raise concerns. Like you cannot just bulldoze your way through leading a project. And especially working in Danish companies have really taught me, and they do care about giving people space to talk and communicate and not dismissing anybody's concerns. They also don't want you to reach agreement. They care about consensus, but it's built only if we know what people are thinking and if we are able to articulate and communicate the concerns and risks so that we can make better informed decisions. That's what it boils down to me. And so once everybody has the same knowledge, you can then begin the real work. And of course, you need to agree on the communication setup or the updates or the status setup that works for you. But when things are not working, you need to acknowledge that transparently and publicly. You have to be willing to listen to the feedback of the group and change your approach if needed for the benefit of the group. Ultimately, with a multi-team delivery, you are the person accountable for that. And the group will look up to you to make hard decisions when the situation calls for it. And I believe making those decisions is much easier when the group understands, again, what the end goal is and kind of rally behind you.
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. Sounds healthy, what you're describing.
Right? You
So
would hope so.
right. So I'm sure the outcomes are similar. You're obsessed with metrics like and KPIs, people analytics, Grafana, Looker. How do you measure success for internal tools?
Mm.
It's not MAU or revenue. What is it?
Yeah, definitely revenue will not work. Churn will not work. These are not really relevant for internal products, especially in cases when, as I mentioned before, the use of a tool is mandated by a process that everybody has to follow, right? But then the adoption doesn't really tell you anything. It just tells you people are using it, but they are literally obligated to do so. So it's a metric, it's an empty metric, it's a vanity metric. So when defining the metrics that really matter for your internal product, you need to think back what was the original reason for putting the team together? Like what was the essential intent behind it? And how would having any metrics help you make better decisions? And based on the example that I had from my previous different products, like if the intent was to streamline a certain business process, you can look at number of steps a user has to take to complete a task or the time it takes to do it and aim for minimization, right? That's the most basic one you could come. You can also look at steps that are most error prone when you analyze different logs, whether that's a human induced prone or system induced error. Then you can define the biggest automation opportunities. Now, if it was more engineering focused product that aimed at, for example, strengthening the code quality, you can analyze the test failures and the root causes, because it may well turn out that some of the test failures are caused by infrastructure instabilities that should be solved by your own team. So you need to solve it so that the code owners get real actionable test results that can be used to meaningfully improve the code quality. And so these are metrics. But when you talk about KPIs, again, no matter if customer facing or internal product, the KPIs have to tell a good story. But to do that, you have to understand what your product leadership or executive leadership and stakeholders, what they perceive as success for your product. You cannot define that in isolation. Without the input, it would be really hard for a PM to create a data narrative that resonates with those who influence strategic decisions. So to give an example, if I lead an infrastructure team that powers a marketplace product, and we as a team, we decide uptime is our main KPI, it's not a given that your stakeholders in business stakeholders, it's not a given that they will understand what value that KPI represents. But a potential flip of the narrative could be to say that high uptime leads to zero interruptions in the shopping experience for users. And if the stakeholders are interested in that angle and they're happy with it, then your true KPI is the number of interruptions on production rather than the uptime itself. So it's about asking people around you who are important for the decision making, what data click when you talk to them.
Yeah, that's very well put. You just have to take a look at what specifically matches the scenario in which, instead of just, like you said, calculating vanity metrics that are not going to lead to anything for the most part.
Exactly.
I want to briefly touch Lego. At Lego, you're building tools for hundreds of Lego model designers and creative leads. These are people designing sets that millions of kids play with. My kids play with them too. How does that change how you think about product?
Oh, that's a good question. So I previously have been working in internal tools that cater to engineers only. And last year I changed to a different internal product that caters to creatives. And that's a different user group, right? Because I needed to realize they come with various levels of digital literacy, and that they feel most energized and immersed in their work when they can do exactly what they were hired for being creative, not for, learning another tool and understanding all the digital tools that we give them internally. So in this case, like really the digital solution should serve as an extension of their creative process in a way that minimizes as much as possible the number of admin tasks they need to complete. So what you could look at in those scenarios, if there's multiple digital tools in, let's say your department, how can you integrate all of them to support a more cohesive experience to decrease the mental overhead of learning how to use multiple tools with multiple interfaces, multiple names of things, right? There are some things that you can streamline and standardize to make it easier to just kind of use it when you need it. And of course, you can automate steps like documentation and status reporting so that the magic again happens under the hood and the designer or the creative doesn't really have to worry about it. You really need to think about what you can take away from their plate to free up their creative time rather than add on to it.
Yeah, absolutely. An interesting way to take a look at it. I know we're coming towards the end of the time. We're now I do want to head into our rapid fire round. I want to ask you a couple of questions. If someone in customer success today is thinking about, hey, I want to be a PM, what do you tell them? What should they start doing today?
Okay. I know this is rapid fire, but I
Oh, it
might
is
have a
not rapid
longer
fire yet.
answer.
We're gonna get to
Okay.
rapid fire, so this is still good.
Okay, perfect. So I think if you feel comfortable with that idea, I would suggest you talk to your manager about your growth goals and your interests to maybe make a plan together. There often is a case where there are extra tasks within your current position that you could take on to practice your product muscle. So that is a potential. If the company has a product department, find a mentor that can show you the ropes without even, you changing the
Yeah.
position as an extra growth thing. There is usually a product community in bigger cities. Find it, attend the events, start networking. The networking really pay off in the long term. Um, there are so many product leaders on social media, even on LinkedIn. So you might just follow a couple of profiles to start. They often share snippets of their wisdom or materials that are free to access. Um, and yet there's so much learning content available for free. Ask AI to put together a list of topics and resources you need to go through to learn the basic
Yeah.
concept of product management, right? Like use the technology to your advantage. And then the last one, I would say, just to get you into that product thinking mindset, think about products that you personally love. Are they physical products? Are they digital products? Is there any type of these that you're more interested in? And to start really thinking what makes those products great. That's where you can start defining that unique selling point if you know the terminology. If not, but that gets you into that thinking of what makes a product great.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way. I think your point about networking, I fully agree with that. I think I was saying this earlier before to somebody else as well, is that with the very digital first society that we have right now, conversations in person, meetups are going to be valuable 10 times more than they were 10 years ago because of the fact that people miss it. They need it. And digital, I mean, like constantly via screens is not enough, for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. And if you have any listeners from Copenhagen, there's a Women in Product Nordics chapter. So
there
join
you go.
us.
There you go. I mean, I hope there is somebody from Copenhagen listening to this. I guess last question before we head into a rapid fire round. On the flip side, you've been a PM for 7+ years now. What's changed in project management in that time, and what's
Yeah.
stayed the same?
I mean, do you think I should say something about AI in here?
What is
Um,
that? A
right.
bird?
So I think you know what, and that might be controversial, but I think what changed is the ecosystem, the work ecosystem around the PM job, but the job itself didn't change much because what we still need to do is be the connection between business and engineering. You have to be the glue between the various roles that are involved in product development. You need to be really good at navigating uncertainty and
Yeah,
emerging software innovations like AI, right? So, well, yes, I can definitely say that more companies have product manager roles in their structure than it was, 7 years ago. It doesn't mean they know how to truly be product led. So the fight continues. You still have to do the same
same game.
advocating for the product craft. And so for me, it didn't really change much.
Yeah, interestingly enough. I do think that there is one thing that I fear for white collar jobs, folks, like you and me that are heavily relying on digital first side of things is the over reliance on AI. I know we use it as a buzzword, but I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and one of the things they said that if somebody writes to them, their first instinct, it's just natural now, is to first parse that through an AI like ChatGPT or whatever before they respond. And then I was like, this cannot be healthy, and it will have a lot of grave consequences down the line because you're losing the aspect of your original thinking, your in-flight, in-time responses. Because if you have to rely and kind of like parse that through mommy, like you're not going to be able to compete, especially if you're in person. Like, hey, you're talking to somebody. What are you going to do? Hey, wait a second, I got to put that through ChatGPT. That's just not how it works. So that's the
Yeah,
part that scares me a little bit, is that you're going to lose a lot of the skill set that you've spent years building, the muscles
I
over
agree with you.
reliance on technology.
That is a bit scary because one is, in order to become a good product manager, you have to practice your product intuition, and that comes through experiencing the trial and tribulations. But if you just parse it through AI, that's not going to be your thinking. That's not going to be you experiencing a situation. That's one thing. The other thing is, as a PM, again, the relationships that you create are super important. So your personality plays a big
It's
part in it.
massive role.
AI will just scrap it off. You will
Yeah.
not be able to shine through as much with
Yeah, I
AI.
mean, you can try. It's the easy way out, but I just don't recommend it, because you're blocking yourself. You're locking yourself into a corner, and then if you can't
Yeah.
trust your instinct, your edge in a lot of ways is just gone, right? So that's that part that scares me, and I'm just and worried. But well, curious to see how that goes into the future, right? Uh, this is fantastic. I want to go into the rapid fire round. It's just very quick questions, very quick answers. Best advice you've ever received, business or personal?
Oh, I don't really remember a lot of advice, but fake it till you make it always
Oh,
works.
you believe in that, really?
100%. It works for me.
Okay.
Do you know this? Okay, I'm gonna expose myself, but do you know this chicken banana song that was okay?
I'm not. I'm
This
not. I don't have social media.
it's
I'm a dinosaur.
then you're safe. Maybe our kids know. But it's the silly
Hopefully.
dance you do before, an important meeting if you want to hype yourself up. I
Okay.
did that
Interesting.
before my last round of interview for the current position. It worked. I was so
Chicken
confident. It's
banana
silly.
dance. Chicken banana dance. Okay, let's just. I'm gonna Google that to see what
Do it.
that is.
It's super
Yeah.
silly. Do not judge me.
Fake it
But
till you
fake it
make
till you
it.
make it, it works. And the second
Yeah.
one, don't be an asshole. That
Yeah.
works
I think
wonders.
that's a genuine. Like
Yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah.
Um, I think I was reading this, or was it a movie that I was watching about Steve Jobs, and I think Steve Wozniak goes, like, dude, it's not binary. You can't be gifted and not be an asshole at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people, I think they let their, and I was discussing this recently with my wife, and we were talking about how we were watching a movie about Bernie Madoff. I don't know if you know Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff was a, biggest mastermind of a Ponzi scheme in the 21st century.
Okay.
But the premise is, because he was rich and he was powerful, the aura was that he's just an asshole. Like, these people, they let the money and the power and everything get to their head, and it starts from like these small positions as managers. They have control over a few people's lives, so they will make it miserable. It's a power trip, and if you become a CEO or you're a CEO, well, I built something big, so goddamn screw you, like that type of thing. And what they don't realize is that it's damaging. It's very isolating, and people will work for you. Sure, they need money, but you will never have their loyalty, something you were describing earlier, right, for the
100%.
most part. And that's,
100%.
it, it- I cannot stress that enough, how important this is to not be an asshole and actually think about people and consider what they're going through when you're talking.
Same. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than a PM who knows exactly what they bring to the table, but they're also uplifting people around them, right? So they spotlight their team, they give credit where credit is due instead of hoarding everything to themselves. So I think that's a universal truth that or
Yeah.
advice you can take to your personal or work environment. I just remembered about the third one that I think is very interesting to say. In the moments where you need to advocate for yourself and you're feeling anxious about it, or maybe you have a little bit of an imposter syndrome or you're unsure,
Yeah.
try cosplaying as a stereotypical white man in a position of power. Think about how they would advocate for themselves in that particular, like the same situation you're in right now. Yeah. And if it's time for annual reviews at bigger corporations, use that.
Neither stereotypical, neither white. So this is going to be an interesting exercise for me to play out.
I mean, same. But yeah, and I think you will relate, especially if you have experiences as a woman working in tech spaces.
Yes. I'm not sure if you noticed. So when I started this channel thing, what very quickly I realized that there's a lot of dudes that I could talk to. Just seriously, my first 6 to 7 calls or meetings or whatever you want to call them, podcast recordings, they were all with guys. And I
Mm.
literally stopped and I said, because I was speaking to my wife about this, she's like, there's a lot of guys here. He's like, yeah, like it's hard for me to find women because I don't have the network of that. And second, I really haven't tried. She said, like, stop being a dick. Like, can you make a conscious effort on making sure you hear the other side of the story? And I've never, to this point in my career, ever thought of it that way. Like, even if candidates come to me, I've never looked at if it's a guy or a gal. Like,
Mm.
I'll hire you based on your skill set. But I've realized that the odds are stacked against women because there's just a less percentage of that in the workforce, and B, I don't know, there's some sort of like stigma. I don't know, whatever that is. So I made that conscious effort of like only reaching out to women that are like in tech and I want to speak to, I want to learn from, understand their perspective. And now the paradigm has shifted. I think it's like 75 to 25% players, dudes, and the rest just women. So
Nice. That's
while
a
I
great
can't,
KPI.
yeah, right there you go, right? Like while I can't experience it, like it's like asking a person that, hey, I have cancer. Can you feel what I'm going through? No, I can't. I will never do that. I can't do that. It's not physically possible. But what you can do is make a conscious effort to understand the other side,
Yeah.
the folks. And I think if you do that, and coming back to your advice of not being an asshole and being inclusive of people, I think something in great can come from it. But you have to make that conscious effort at
Well,
the
I
end of the
agree.
day, right?
Yeah.
Advice you ignored or wish you had listened to.
I'm sure I've gotten some that I didn't listen to, but honestly, I don't think I remember.
Okay, it's all good. If you do, you can always ping me on LinkedIn. I'll
Yeah.
try to export that in there. Cool. That's an
Maybe it
interesting
means
one.
I don't regret it.
Me, sure, but I think a lot of times it's one of those in the shower thoughts. Like, in the next day you think, oh god damn, I should have said
Oh, yeah. Okay.
that.
I'll think about it. If I remember, I'll text you.
All good. I'll port that into the video. What would you tell your younger self, say 7 to 10 years ago?
Oh, um, well, let me think. 7 to 10 years ago, that was such a different lifetime. I think I would say trust your gut. If a situation or an interaction doesn't feel okay, it probably is because it isn't. And my intuition, even though I felt it, I often ignored it, especially at the early stages of my career.
Yeah.
But now I don't. So I feel like that has made me a more true to myself, but also more powerful employee in a workplace because I know exactly how to advocate for myself.
And one ongoing challenge in your current work that keeps you up at night.
Yeah, I think it I think it's coming back to how do I make sure that my team isn't just a feature team? That really is something that I think about a lot because as a PM, I feel a lot of responsibilities are on me, but of course on the leadership that's above me to change that dynamic. But I need to do it in a way where I don't antagonize anybody. And so I need to be mindful and very strategic about what I invest my energy in. And that takes a lot of my thinking
Yeah,
space.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I usually ask people about the favorite restaurant in Poland, but I'm going to ask you about your favorite restaurant in Copenhagen.
Okay, deal. So first of all, eating out in Copenhagen is extremely expensive.
And
But
that I've taken my kids to Legoland.
oh
It
yeah,
bankrupted me.
yeah, exactly. And that wasn't even in Copenhagen, so.
So,
But there is a wonderful street food place which I really love. It's called Veffen, and there is this
Ethan?
there's this West African booth that's called
Ooh,
Baobab. They have this beautiful dish, which is honestly my comfort food. It's like this peanut stew with rice. So good.
holy,
Yeah,
interesting. I've never had that. That's really interesting.
come to
Sure.
Copenhagen.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
100%. Um, is there a tool or software that you swear by I cannot live without?
Okay, another controversial take. I am very conservative when it comes to the tools I use. And
Really?
so I usually I have so many things at work, but also in life that like are in my head. I use a notebook, a paper notebook to put things down because then it's for me. Yes, exactly. It's for me a transfer from my head to something, right? I clear the space, but also I don't stress about forgetting about something. So I use that
Yeah,
also with the combination of calendar and reminders. I'm just very simple with that,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
it really helps.
I used to make fun of my team. Every new hire that I would hire in my previous company that I used to work for, they would be writing notes, and I was like, go to Patricia, my very first hire at that company, and ask her why I don't like people making notes on the notebook. And it's because you can't search them. You can't, it's not
True.
digitized. But then I got this notebook as a gift on my birthday, and then I started making notes when I started this podcast thing or whatever. And it is so good. It is so good because A, you're making conscious effort to remember what the other person is saying, and B, there's something about that writing part. It's like or maybe it's my memory like that. It really gets transposed into my
Yeah.
head. Is like crap. I just wrote that, so I remember what you're saying about access to users and MAUs. Like it's just makes my thinking a lot more clearer. So
Yeah.
fully agree on that front.
I think it is connected to a memory pattern because I've got the same even when I was at school or at university.
Mm,
When I would write something or repeatedly write something, it would be more ingrained in my memory, and that
yeah,
really helped. Because I'm not great at memorizing things. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about this thing, and I need to write it down real quick. So I will use, the notes app in iPhone,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
but it does help me to just write it by
yeah.
hand.
100%, 100%. Perfect. Veronica, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time having a chat with me. I really enjoyed it. Loved it. Where can listeners find you?
LinkedIn is the best place. I don't post much, but if you're ever interested in having a job in Copenhagen, I do post job openings.
Okay, perfect. I might actually ask for a coupon or a discount code for Lego.
Okay, okay. That's after the podcast.
Any upcoming projects, launch talks, or events that you're excited about?
I'm excited about the next Women in Product event we've got here in Copenhagen. We're going to have a hands-on community workshop about AI and MCP and all of that because
Oh, wow.
PMs still need to be in touch with new technology, but it is a
Sure.
bit of a, sometimes a scary hurdle to go through, especially if you come from a non-engineering spaces. And
Yes.
there's a lot of us like that, right? And so that community really helps to share the knowledge and show by example, lead by example. And that's how I learn as well. I cannot just read a book. It's not me. So I need something that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
shows me the practice. Because the power of AI and PM in product management can be in the automating the smaller things, not replacing the most core parts of your job, but in automating or synthesizing some feedback sources, or automating feedback collection, all of that. So like more in the product ops area rather than stakeholder relationships or
Sure.
things like that, right? So I'm really excited about it because that's the area that I want to be better at.
Fingers crossed, Veronica. Thank you so much once again. Like I said, really appreciated you coming on. Really learned a lot from you. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming on. If you got value out of this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.